Hey guys, I'm Travis Joe, or Mataris if you know me from fanfiction.net, and I'm here to do something to be a little more personal in how I respond to my reviewers for my stories that are written on fanfiction, because I just love that not only do people take the time out of the day to read my stories, but to also give me their feedback. And this is my way of saying, thanks guys, I want to give a personal shout out to each and every one of you. So starting with the story Saiyan Tail, I've got the reviews loaded up here on my phone. I'm going to read through them and just give my feedback to any questions that you guys post them, or like kind of give my insight onto why I did certain things if something in the story struck you as weird or not really seeming out of place, because crossovers are kind of tricky, and Saiyan Tail is a crossover of two very well known and very large franchises, Fairy Tail and Dragon Ball Z. And Dragon Ball Z is kind of like the king of all anime franchises. Goku's hosting the Olympics in the next Summer Olympic Games, so that should give you an idea of how big that franchise is if you're unfamiliar with them. So in any case, let's get started with these reviews. Saiyan God 101 was the first one to review. He says, yay, or he or she, not sure who, what, says, yay, it's here. First chapter and I already love it. I'm going to love this. I'm glad you do, man. I love this story, and I'm really excited to continue it. And I'm glad that you're already getting so hyped up for it. Let's see. There isn't many Fairy Tail, Dragon Ball crossovers, and the ones that are around always ends up making the Saiyans, whether it's canon characters or seed characters, ridiculously overpowered. It gets annoying after a while. You know, man, I really have to agree. It's actually kind of one of the reasons I decided to do this crossover, because I was actually entertaining the notion of doing Dragon Ball Z crossed over with My Hero Academia. But I liked a lot of the premise of the stories that I had read for Fairy Tail Dragon Ball Z crossovers, but the characters just always ended up being ridiculously overpowered, and it just gets boring after a while. I mean, like, it's like sticking Superman it's almost like sticking Superman in the story, and then there's nobody that's going to be able to beat him, and that just gets kind of repetitive after a while. I mean, seriously, catch on, DC Universe. The Avengers are going to kick your butt repeatedly if you keep this up. Let's see. Man, this is getting me amped up for my Fairy Tail Dragon Ball crossover, which is connected to my main Dragon Ball series. Oh, so you're also a writer. That's cool. That's really cool. I'm not gonna say how. It just is. I've written a couple of chapters on it, dude. Writing chapters in advance, that's the way to go in case you get sick or something. I can attest to that. I really should have done that before. But I haven't updated it because it's kind of a huge spoiler to my Dragon Ball series, so it won't go up until Dragon Ball Legacy is completed. So, yeah, I would recommend finishing whichever project you've started, because having multiple at a time can be exhausting. I've made that mistake myself, and I'm still kind of doing the same thing right now, but I'm doing it at a much more manageable level. I think time will tell. Let's see. Closing comment here is, I always wondered if key users could sense Ether Nano. I wouldn't be surprised if they could. Anyway, I love the first chapter. I can't wait for the next chapter. Take care. Well, dude, I'm glad that you can't wait for the next chapter. Not because I'm a sadist, but because the next chapter will be released right after, like, I'm going to say 30 minutes to an hour after I put this video up on YouTube. So look out for that real soon. And in response to the key users sensing Ether Nano, from what I understood is that key and Ether Nano are basically the same thing. Ki is supposed to be inside of all living things in the air around us, and certain martial artists in Dragon Ball can manipulate it. And the Ether Nano seems like kind of the same thing, except they just call it magic particles. And I know in Dragon Ball that they have drawn a very definite line between magic and Ki. Ki is more based on real life. My brothers know a little bit more about this than I do. They both practice kung fu. They're both very familiar with how chi works and all that. And as I understand it, ki is supposed to be based off of the real deal. But obviously we don't have anybody spamming Kamehameha blasts anywhere, or else life would be infinitely more interesting. But as I understood it, the functions for accessing them both seem to be about the same. So, like, it made sense that they could work together in a crossover, and to me it would make sense that a key user would have little to no issue adapting to sense for Ether Nano instead of Ki. So yeah, that kind of on similar thoughts. So let's see. Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta says, so is the way Goron has to use his energy supposed to limit his strength? Because that explanation doesn't really make sense. Unlike magic, which relies on Ethernet on the air, key manipulation comes from the individual. It doesn't matter what the environment around them is. Okay, so this guy and I have actually messaged a couple times, and so to answer the initial question, no, it doesn't actually. The way that he's accessing his energy is not making him weaker. I just wanted to add an extra challenge because, like she was saying, God was saying, most of the stories that have Dragon Ball and Fairy Tail or Dragon Ball crossover elements in general make the mistake of making the Saiyan characters so overpowered, and then it's just no fun for them to have any kind of challenge. And Saiyans live for challenge. And like, sorry, like I'm trying to think of how to formulate this. So you're only partially correct in the sense that Ether Nano is in the air, but it doesn't. But that's not how magicians use it. The magicians, when they go into detail on this, when the Fairy Tail Team A and some of the other members run into the Crime Star Sierra Guild and they have their second origins unlocked, they explain in depth how magic works, and the way that it works and the way the energy is outputted is the Ether Nano is in the air, but the magician's body draws it in like a magnet into a flask-type container called the first origin, and in some cases the second origin. And those containers determine how much energy they can output, how much energy they can use in one go, or how long they can last in a fight, so on and so forth. That's the energy that they're using in a fight, not the stuff that's in the air. And in that way, key users are very similar in that the amount of power they can output is dependent upon the energy in their body. So I figured if I thought about making Goron have light magic, or like having transition to light magic, but I decided that Etherion made a little bit more sense because Ki resides within all living things, and it just made more sense. I mean, like, I can understand where you're coming from, where the confusion would be, and I'm sorry if I'm not doing a very good job of explaining myself, but just in my head, it made sense that there were enough similarities between Etherion and Ki for him to make the transition. And if there's any other arguments that you have, I would just kind of say that Saiyans are noted for being able to adapt to any environment, and these changes have to happen on a molecular level in order for them to be strong enough to resist gravity changes or atmospheric pressure changing, or even breathing in different kinds of not chemicals, I'm forgetting, particles or whatever. Like, it's been established that Saiyans need to breathe. They can't breathe in a vacuum, but we've seen them on some fairly hostile planets, and they've been able to breathe pretty easily, fairly quickly. It's like, so that was kind of my other thought process for he's not still using Ki as much as he's transitioning to magic, because I kind of wanted to have him play by the same rules as everybody else, because again, otherwise the Saiyan character becomes too overpowered too quickly, and that's just no fun. Like, yeah, so I hope that explanation lends to itself a little bit, or that it sets your mind at ease a little bit, because I don't want you being thoroughly irked at the way things are progressing because of something that I said initially. I just, like, this just seemed the way for it to make the most sense to me. Let's see. Joe Clone says, Dragon Ball, Fairy Tail, 2 anime I've never seen. Well, you should watch them, except for Dragon Ball. Watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged, because they're amazing and hilarious. Let's see. But that's okay because you're back. Oh, thanks, dude. I understand why you could discontinue the other stories. Never read Inheritance, so not lost on my part. I'm excited for more of this. I'm Korra and Red Swordsman. Well, dude, I'm glad that you're excited for this story, even if you've never seen either fandom. I mean, I recommend checking them both out. I love Fairy Tail and I love Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and I love Dragon Ball Super. I actually like the new Dragon Ball anime quite well, and I'm sure there's a lot of Dragon Ball Z elitists that are going to want to crucify me for saying that. But you know what? I don't care. Let's see. Majan Lightus says, great chapter, mate. Can't wait for more. I love this guy. I am a creature of habit, and he leaves the same comment every time. So I'm just like, yay, normalcy. Somebody, like, he's read the chapter, and he thinks it's good. He has, on occasion, said some other stuff, but, like, I just love that this guy is here every single time that a chapter has been released ever since he started following me. So thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Gamer of Action 44D says, "This is very well written, has quite interesting and unique pairing. I'm excited to see more." Well, dude, I'm excited to see more. I mean, like I love bringing two worlds together to see what kind of shenanigans can happen. It's always wonderful, and I'm glad that you think my stuff is well written. I mean, comparing it to some of the stuff that I released when I first started writing on the site and my actual published novel, I would like to say that it is better written, but I can't exactly say that I'm still at the level where I want to be yet. But I'm glad that you enjoy the writing style enough to not just completely write it off immediately, and I'm glad you like the pairing too, because that was something my wife and I were talking about when we were trying to figure out who do we think Goran should end up with, and so far it's looking like Goran's going to end up with Kinana, the Fairy Tail's barmaid during the 7-year gap that the S-class candidates and wizards are trapped on Tenra Island. She seemed to both of us like a super sweet, nice character that we just didn't get to see enough screen time of. And considering that there's like 50 main characters, I can understand why she doesn't get too much screen time. The Neo Arachion Seis arc doesn't really count because it's not canon, and it was just kind of it was an okay filler arc, and I'm glad that there's filler arc because it gives time for the source material to get ahead. But in any case, that's besides the point. I'm not going to confirm whether or not Kinana and Goran will end up together or not, but so far it's looking that way, and I will say at least that, yeah, she's going to get more screen time than she did in the original, which is something that I'm looking forward to because, again, her character seems like it had loads of potential, but with very little to go on in the actual show. So stay tuned for more on that, pal. Let's see. Our first guest says, great chapter. Can't wait till the next update. Again, the next chapter should be going up about half an hour or so after I put this video up on YouTube. So take a look then. Let's see. This guest goes by the name of Kiro, I think. Says, looking forward to this. Holy crap, spine cancer. Gosh dang, dude. Please don't repeat the later parts of Mataros' story in Fairy of Aincrad. I agree with the Goron. You should probably take off a few more days from writing just in case. Well, I appreciate that you guys are concerned for my health, but let me put something to rest right now. I never had cancer in my spine, alright? Like, I had cancer spot next to my spine, but not in my spine. Like, none of my major organs were affected by the cancer. They cut it out. They burned it. I'm okay. I don't have cancer anymore. I'm not entirely okay because I have some other health problems, which is why I'm taking it a little slower on my writing right now, and because my wife and I have a really cute little girl at home now because she's our daughter and we love her. And so yeah, writing's going to be a little slower, but I'm okay. I don't have cancer anymore. I'm not going to die like Mataris did in The Slayer of Aincrad, which, bit of backstory for you if you're not familiar with that story, is a SAO Fairy Tail crossover where the main character unfortunately contracts leukemia during his time being comatose while playing an Aincrad, and by the time he wakes up and starts figuring out it's too late and he dies a few months later. Which I gotta say, that was a really hard experience because I've been developing that character for like 7 years at the time that I wrote the story, and because it was going to be so hard for me to kill him off, it created such a raw emotional catharsis that I decided, you know what, if I'm going to grow as a writer, I need to be able to do this. I need to be able to experience these emotions. So that was important, but don't you guys worry. I'm not going anywhere for at least 30 or 40 years. Hopefully longer. But thank you for showing that. Thank you for showing concern about my health. It's really cool to know that you guys actually care about the writer instead of just the stories that I'm putting out there. So that's really cool, you guys. Thanks. Let's see. Chidori Prime says, I think I'm pronouncing that. He says, awesome. I'm like, okay, if that's the one word you want to use to describe my chapter, then awesome. Let's see. Another guest says, cool, are you okay? I don't care if you write if it makes things worse for you. Oh, and good work on the chapter, by the way. Well, thank you for saying that. I care that I kind of dropped off the face of the earth for a while and didn't really say anything to my readers, so it's kind of why I'm trying to be a little more actively engaged with my readers, even if I'm not producing as many chapters at the time. But thank you for saying so. I'm doing better now, which is why I resumed a somewhat regular writing activity. So yeah. So Saiman here, another one of my regular readers, he has left a review and a half, and I've read it before. It looks, the first part is kind of some personal stuff, so I'm not gonna read that. I'm not gonna read that here in the video because I don't want to put it up unless he gives consent. But for the actual review, he says. Before I start my review, can I say this, please? The outro conversations at the end of the chapters are being old, and honestly, I find them a bit annoying and unnecessary. Well, sorry that you feel that way, man. That kind of hurts a little bit because that part is just so fun for me. It's just kind of like a way for me to step back from having written a long chapter. It's a tiring process. Like, I don't just spam out on the words on the keyboard and then there's a beautiful story. No way. I read these things backwards, forwards, like 3 times. Then my wife, who is a wonderful, wonderful grammar Nazi, go through it with me. And then there's another bunch of this happening on the keyboard. And then you guys get the chapter that you enjoy so much. At least I hope Simon here enjoyed it, but it sounds like the rest of you guys did. It sounds like the majority of you guys enjoyed the chapter. And this Omaki is kind of like this one bit at the end where I'm just like, nope, this is mine. I'm just going to have some fun with my characters. And my characters are going to have some fun with me because sometimes I have them make fun of my own stuff. Because, let's be real, you got to make fun of yourself at some point. Let's see. This is a really long review. Let's see. Now for the review. I like how this is starting off. The time patroller wanted to escape from a pressuring life. However, this character doesn't appeal to me at all. Not only is his name unoriginal, but his background is both a bit unbelievable and ridiculous with somehow being related to both Goku and Vegeta. Okay, so let me stop you at the original name thing. For crying out loud, one of the main characters of the series' name is Vegeta. And his brother's name is Tarble. Vegetable! For crying out loud, the original author named one of the main characters after freaking vegetables. And then it turns out Goku, whose real name is Kakarot, is basically a carrot. Yes, Kakarot is carrot. And then there's Nappa, which is a type of cabbage. And then there's Broly, which is a broccoli. And I could keep going. There's Kale, which is a type of lettuce. There's Kaba, which is a type of cabbage. Sadala, the name of the planet of the Saiyans from Universe 6, is a salad. This guy does not have any room for claiming originality on almost any of these characters' names. I mean, Son Goku is off of Son Wukong from Journey to the West. No originality. So if that's your shtick, I'm sorry, man, but I can't take that one lying down. If you're going to complain that my character's name is Goran, when Goku's named his son Gohan after his grandpa Gohan, and his wife named their second son Goten, which is hardly any different, then I'm sorry, that doesn't really have that's not really a credible sting there. Like, there's almost no original names to begin with in the series. Now, so for the whole thing with him being related to Goku and Vegeta, let me re-emphasize that it is very distantly that he is related to both of them. Directly related, yes, but we're talking like 20 generations on each side before he's related to them. Like, he's not their grandson on both sides. It's not like Trunks and Pan hooked up or whatever, although there's some creepy people on the internet that want that to happen. Moving on. No. We're talking like grandkids, and then some more grandkids. Like, it's far enough down that it's like, those people aren't going to care who was related to who. It's like, these the backstory of his parents are they're both elite time patrollers. They're the main, for lack of a better term, his dad's the main character from Xenoverse 1 and his mom's the main character from Xenoverse 2. They met, they started having some fun, and then they got married and had a kid. And it's as simple as that. She happened to be related to Vegeta, he happened to be related to Goku. The ancestry didn't really have too much to do with that. It just ended up kind of being something cool, or should have been something cool for Goran, but he sees it as a lot of pressure that he wants to escape from, which you were saying was an interesting part. He wouldn't have left the Time Patrol if he didn't feel such a crushing weight from this legacy that he's inherited of being the descendant of the 2 greatest mortals to ever walk the multiverse. So, I mean, I understand you're allowed to have your criticisms and reservations, but like again with the name thing, if you're gonna point out a criticism, just come on, man. Like you're one of dude. Again, you're one of my most loyal readers, and I love that you left such a long review. And I'm glad that you put out this criticism because I don't often get too much criticism anymore, and I feel like I need some. But please try to find something a little more solid, if nothing else. Sorry. Let's see. The way he sticks up for Fairy Tail and relearns his abilities through magic is cool. Goes to show that things are different in this world. Okay, so I got another bonus point from Simon. However, I worry about him being OP, given how he's technically the strongest character in Fairy Tail now at Super Saiyan 3, which obviously spoiled in those previews. This kid can easily rack Akinogi with a single Kamehameha without putting too much power in, especially since it's Super Saiyan 3, he could easily destroy the planet. Okay, so another thing I'm going to have to stop you at. So you're kind of assuming that Super Saiyan 3 is just going to automatically make him the strongest person in Fairy Tail and that he has it. Well, again, I'm going to stop you. He doesn't have Super Saiyan 3 yet. You don't know those previews. You don't know at what point in the story those are going to be. Those are going to be happening. So, and also, it's a power multiplier, right? So if his base power is nowhere near Goku and Vegeta's level in Super. Let me just say that. It's like, if let's say that Goten could go Super Saiyan at the age of 7, right? That did not mean that he was stronger than Frieza at the age of 7, right? It multiplied his whatever power he had by 50, but that doesn't mean that his base power that doesn't mean that power multiplier automatically puts him over what Frieza was at that time. So you're kind of making an assumption that just because he hits Super Saiyan 3, he's automatically the strongest person in Fury. One of the reasons that I'm writing this story is to break that stereotype of having Saiyan characters being overpowered. And as for him being able to destroy the planet, like Goku and Vegeta and the others could easily blow up the planet at any time, but most of the time they don't. I think personally that Natsu could destroy the planet by the end of Fairy Tail or even by the end of Fairy Tail 2014. I mean, he basically sneezes and blows up a mountain range. And we've seen many similar acts of destruction in Dragon Ball Z. So I think that Natsu and Goku, Natsu, they're basically the same character type, so of course I'm going to get confused. My point is that I'm pretty sure Natsu could blow up the planet if he wanted to, but he doesn't want to. He has a good enough handle on himself most of the time for that not to happen. And also, to paraquote Team 4-Star on power levels and what's it called, the people that do the death battle, Screw Attack, power levels are bullcrap, all right? And power, the numbers that correlate to your energy levels and power and stuff, they don't determine everything. Otherwise, Frieza would have beaten Goku on Namek, and that would have been the end of it before he could even turn Super Saiyan. Numbers and levels of power don't determine everything in a fight, and that's something I'm trying to emphasize, especially in the story. So I hope I haven't put you off enough that you don't want to continue reading this story and see where it goes, because trust me, I have this one planned out pretty far in advance. I've got like 9 chapters written in advance right now. However, I'm spacing them out and reviewing them to make sure that they're good. But I do know where this story is going and how he's going to grow as both a character and in power. Let's see. Lastly, those previews, all of them, but at least the first one with the Kaioshin of Time and Trunks has to go. They spoil way too much. I don't want to know details that'll most likely be in chapters that are more likely to be 10 or more ahead of this one. You already spoiled this kid going Kaioken, Super Saiyan 3, and potentially Super Saiyan Blue, which he doesn't need, by the way. He doesn't need it, but, like, well, actually, not sure. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Because he might, maybe. Yes. And no, the previews don't have to go because, again, I think you're kind of assuming that you know certain things. You don't. You don't know where the story is going. I do. That's part of me being the author and you being the reader. Like I said before, you're welcome to make your comments and make your criticisms and stuff. But and I welcome them. I really do. But part of this video is me being able to give back my own input to these reviews, and I would like to say very firmly but politely that no, you don't know what you don't know everything that these previews are bringing out, and as a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say that they hide more than they reveal. And I'm sorry if that upsets you, that if I seem a little brusque, but you've read about Mataris, you know how he is. That's just his blunt attitude. That comes from me, and quite frankly, I'm not going to apologize too heavily for it. Let's see. Because of that, I won't have any surprise or anticipation for when it happens, which is a poor decision as a writer. I'd still be following the story to see how it goes, as an interesting story and concept, not unlike my own story, which I'm actually struggling badly with due to real life things. Dude, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope, like, as we've all seen, I know exactly how that goes. I really hope that whatever's happening with you in real life clears up so you can get back to your writing, because, like, dude, writing is so awesome, isn't it? Let's see. I hope to see improvements in future chapters as well as interesting plot twists. Keep up the good work and take care of your health, man. So, final words on that review. Thanks, man. I'm glad to see that you'll be sticking with the story. And good luck to you as well. And yes, I will be taking care of my health. As I said earlier in the video, my wife and I just welcomed home our baby girl. So I gotta stick around for her if nothing else. But you said you were looking for some interesting plot twists and stuff. Well, I can definitely promise you that there will be some plot twists that you nor anybody would have seen coming. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say when they do. But for right now, that's all the reviews that there were. I think there was like more than 10 reviews for a first chapter, which is like awesome. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. The next chapter for Saiyan Tail should be up in about 30 minutes or so. And please be sure to check out the intro video that I made for you guys. Crossing over some footage from Fairy Tail and Dragon Ball Z stuff. It's not the best, but I did what I could. And I just thought it'd be fun to give you guys a little something kind of in the way of an anime opening. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you even more for leaving these reviews. And I hope to see you again for next chapter. Take care. I'm out.